This might be cool. Check this out with me. I want to compare linear to parallel, sort of, not processing, but yeah, processing, I guess. Um, Most people are watching this video be like, "Oh, parallel processing, good. Humans should do that." But actually, the way that we see ourselves, we it doesn't do that. We Well, it depends. So of course, some people see themselves as like two parts, maybe a heart and a mind, or a soul and a body, or three parts, maybe four parts. Um, but I think that's kind of where it tends to cap out, at least for the general population. So in that case, we do, yeah. So the heart is processing, the brain is processing. So we've got this parallel processing. All right. Well, that's not how I plan to start my video anyway. So can we just scratch that? Okay. So here's what I was thinking about. We tend to, okay. So suppose we don't see ourselves. I mean, in general, I think we see ourselves as one thing, but then sometimes we'll imagine a heart or a reproductive organ um, contributing to that self, maybe to the thoughts. So I guess we can just keep thinking like that. Here's what my point was. Here's what we tend to do. I think so. We have a thought. This is the case for me anyway. I have a thought that leads to another thought, which leads to another thought, which leads to another thought. And the last thought is sort of the best thought and the result of these thoughts. But what if that's not true? Right? And when we have critical recognition and we know that we're brains, we know that shouldn't be true. That each thought, even if it feels like a sequence, or even when it feels like a sequence, because sometimes it doesn't feel like a sequence, sometimes something pops into your mind. But in the times when it feels like a sequence, like you've been thinking about a thing, and it feels like a sequence of feelings and thoughts, we should know that it might not be, though. All right, so what if we imagine, so this is the brain, okay? And I don't know, should I put like zeros? Just all the white space is zeros, I guess. All right, so at a given moment, or I guess zeros would be the senses. So zero comes in. Um, of course, there's also actually layers because there's intraliveries. So, we could define a one as being a consequential thought. Oh no, but these aren't then. Oh, so then these would be zeros. Okay, so then a one is any consequential thought. So every one should have a two. So make that zero again, zero. Okay. So every one is a consequential thought. So you had this thought, or no, you had this thought, and you had this thought. Now, you may not have had them at the same time, though. Well, that's the important thing, is that it can feel like a sequence when there is a thread and when they follow sequentially in time. Um, but they can follow sequentially in time, like this one happens, and then a little bit later, this one happens, without there being any link between them, without this one having caused this one. So you can imagine you have this thought, and we don't really know whether this is two or whether this is a level one thought. You have this thought, then you have this thought. Now, the brain, it's easy for the brain to string together a narrative, to confabulate, to fill in the gaps, and for it to feel like this thought led to this thought. But it's also possible that it didn't. Right? It's also possible that this is also that this is also a one. So it went one, one, and then maybe this is like a two. These are not ratings; these are just distance from cause, I guess. So So this could also be a 1. And then what you might end up doing is sticking with this. Is thinking this is thought 3. But what if it just felt like that? What if in fact you've listed 3 separate thoughts and these haven't been addressed yet? Because especially if you're thinking about like if you're going back and forth about something, you may think of a pro, then you think of a con, and it can feel like that con was a response to the pro, but maybe it wasn't. I mean, in a pro and con list, you typically, that's why you're supposed to make a list actually, so that you can then again confront each of them. Anyway, so that's all that the suggestion is. So the idea is, we don't yet have the technology or systems to be able to, print out your 1, 2, 3, 4s, and 5s, but because it's possible, so here's what should be entertained here. At least so we don't really have a word for that. For actually, you can call these the pre-liveries. Suppose this is what X livers. This thought. This is what the system goes with. It assumes that it was all a linear thing, and because this is the last one that happened in the system, then this is the sum of all that. Whereas actually, this still needs to be considered. This. You know what? I wish. Hold on. Let me just do something so you don't think it's because it's the number 5. Ah, shit. This still isn't gonna work. Okay. So suppose that this is the X livery. But these are all also terminuses, termini. So I guess what we can call these are ends, Endliveries. Okay. So, because X livery is reserved for what produced the output, the behavior, for what the system sort of went with. But you've got these other liveries, specifically these other Endliveries. Here's your in livery, your stimulus. Here, all these lines are your interliveries. Well, actually, these don't. I guess they do kind of represent it. All right, and then you've got your Endliveries here. And anyway, that's the point. These here, and 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 these here didn't. There was no follow-up to those. So if you're thinking about something that really matters, even once you've got this 5 here, again, you can't see the numbers, but what you can do is just write down thoughts that you have, and try to do a sentence per thought, and try to, if something's too similar, try not to be too redundant. And then what you're going to end up doing, because you can't actually see the numbers and stuff, but when you just run the question again, a lot of this activity is going to happen again. So you write some of it down. And what you're going to end up doing is maybe you're going to write this down. Maybe this. Maybe this. Maybe that. Maybe that. Maybe that. Maybe that. Maybe that. It's still worthwhile. Let's see. I mean, I don't, I mean, obviously I didn't even circle randomly. I did, I don't know what my mind was doing, but, anyway, the point is, is that in this not really random example, and also I'm not even convinced that the Endliveries are because, well, so if you go back and think about this, it should just lead to that again. If you go back and think about this 4, it should just lead to this 5 and this 5. But actually, that's kind of the point, is that you don't want to get carried away. You want to actually take a moment to write this 4 down. It's still going to liver this 5. But if you have attention, if you're like, okay, I just had a thought, here's a word from the thought, now just stay with that. And you can write this down. Okay, now what did that trigger in me? And then maybe you'll find another 5, you know. Anyway, so I think that's kind of an interesting way to metacognate. This realization that I am not a sort of single thing moving through cognitive time, where I am this cognitive existence, or I am, but not in sort of a logical sense where I'm this cognitive entity, which then, having added and improved that previous cognitive entity, having advanced, is now this new improved cognitive entity, where this event is always the best event based on our previous events or something. I mean, I don't think we have super grand illusions about that, but the stuff I said at the beginning of this video, I do think. I don't know whether I just phrased it different. Anyway, it just didn't sing as an illusion. Anyway, so that's fun.